Have you realized that our civilization is heading towards total collapse? Even though we live in an age of extremely advanced technology, where we've already found cures for many diseases, even though we live in extremely safe cities, far from the dangers that nature once posed, still, the collapse of society is imminent. Nietzsche predicted our downfall over 150 years ago, and it is happening exactly as he said it would. Have you ever wondered why all the great civilizations in history followed the same destructive pattern? Why did Rome, Greece, Egypt, all the empires that once ruled the world end up being devoured not by external enemies, but by something far more subtle and dangerous? A 19th-century German philosopher discovered the answer. And the frightening thing is, he wasn't just talking about the past, he was prophesying our present. Friedrich Nietzsche called this the arrival of the last man, a human type that always emerges at the height of civilizations and destroys them from within. But wait, that's just the beginning of what you're going to discover today. In 1883, Nietzsche wrote something that should have chilled the blood of anyone who read it. Man is becoming smaller. His will to power is waning. He wasn't talking about physical strength. He was describing something much deeper and more disturbing. Nietzsche identified a deadly pattern that repeats itself across all civilizations. First comes greatness, men and women with a will to create, to build, to transcend. They found empires, create sublime art, and developed philosophies that move the world. But then, something changes. Success breeds comfort, comfort breeds complacency, and complacency, well, complacency kills the soul of a civilization. Do you know what's most disturbing? Nietzsche described exactly what our time would be like. A time will come when man will no longer shoot the arrow of his longing beyond man, and the string of his bow will unlearn how to vibrate. Look around you. How many people do you know who still shoot arrows beyond themselves? How many still vibrate with purposes that transcend their own comfort? But that's just the surface of the problem. Nietzsche diagnosed something he called herd morality, and it explains everything you see happening today. He realized that when societies become too prosperous, they begin to value security above all else. Conformity becomes a virtue. Mediocrity becomes the norm. And do you know what the clearest symptom of this disease is? The systematic pursuit of anything excellent, different, or superior. Nietzsche called this ressentiment, the anger that the mediocre feel toward those who remind them of their own limitations. Have you noticed how these days any display of excellence is viewed with suspicion? How profound knowledge is treated as elitist? How the pursuit of truth is considered intolerant? This is no accident. It's the pattern Nietzsche identified 150 years ago. He wrote, "The demand for equality is a symptom of decline. The growing distance between man and man, class and class, the multiplicity of types, the desire to be oneself. All this that I call the pathos of distance is characteristic of every strong age." Translation: healthy civilizations celebrate difference, excellence, and the natural hierarchy of talent. Sick civilizations try to level everything down. What I'm saying is not about differences between poor and rich. As a society, the strongest must help the weakest. But what can never happen is the strongest being punished for being strong, being judged for being intelligent, or being labeled as the villain for having an above-average natural talent. This problem was already noted by Nietzsche back then, and what comes next is even more shocking. Here is Nietzsche's most frightening prophecy, and the one that most closely resembles our own time. He described the emergence of what he called the last man, a human type that always emerges at the end of great civilizations. What is this last man like? Nietzsche was succinct in his description. "We have invented happiness," the last men say, and blink. They are people obsessed with comfort, security, and small pleasures. They create nothing grand, seek nothing transcendent, and question nothing profound. Nietzsche's last man is the man who works during the day, watches Netflix at night, gives his opinion on everything on social media, but never really thinks. He consumes culture, but doesn't create it. He inherits values, but doesn't question them. And do you know what the most dangerous characteristic of the last man is? He doesn't realize he's mediocre. On the contrary, he thinks he's enlightened, evolved, and superior to past generations. The earth has become small, Nietzsche wrote, and on it leaps the last man, who makes everything small. They turn profound questions into memes, reduce philosophy to motivational phrases, and convert art into disposable entertainment. But the darkest part is yet to come. Nietzsche saw something that most people still don't understand. Nihilism is not a philosophical choice. It is an inevitable historical fate for civilizations that have gone too far. God is dead, Nietzsche said, and he wasn't celebrating. He was diagnosing. He was saying that a time would come when all higher values, truth, beauty, justice, transcendence, would lose their power to guide human life. And then what happens? People continue living, but without real direction. They invent small goals, careers, consumption, entertainment, but deep down, they know none of it really matters. This is the emptiness you feel when you wake up in the morning and don't quite know why you're alive. This is the anguish that comes when you realize you're just going through the motions, with no real purpose. Nietzsche called this passive nihilism, and said it would be the dominant spiritual disease of modernity. Look around you. How many people do you know who are truly alive, truly engaged with something that transcends their own immediate interests? But we haven't yet reached the most disturbing point of the analysis. A history of civilization researcher at the University of Oxford studied the patterns of decline of 23 great empires throughout history. His conclusion was surprising. We have not found a single instance of a civilization falling under external pressure while still maintaining its internal cohesion and its founding values intact. Another historian, an expert on ancient Rome, observed, "The fall of Rome did not begin with the barbarian invasions. It began when the Romans stopped believing they were Roman." And a contemporary philosopher who spent 30 years studying Nietzsche concluded, "The Nietzschean prophecy was not about the future. It was about an eternal pattern of human nature. Every time a civilization reaches the peak of comfort and security, it automatically generates the forces that will destroy it. But here's what Nietzsche saw that will completely change your perspective on the moment we're living in." He didn't believe this destruction was definitive. In fact, he saw the collapse of old structures as a unique opportunity in human history. Nietzsche spoke of something he called the overman, not a superhero, but a human type capable of creating new values after the old ones had collapsed. And according to him, these new creators could only emerge amidst chaos, when the old certainties had already been demolished. The question remains, are you prepared to be a creator of values in a time when all values are crumbling? Nietzsche ended, "Thus spoke Zarathustra," with a powerful image, that of a man who comes down from the mountain, not to save the multitudes, but to find the few who still hunger for greatness. Perhaps this is what we are living in now. A time when the last men completely dominate the scene, but also a time when a select few can awaken to something greater. Idiocracy destroys civilizations because it turns essential issues into jokes, reduces the complexity of human existence to cheap entertainment, and convinces people that mediocrity is wisdom. But do you know what Nietzsche's final lesson was? That amidst general decadence, there are always those who can see through the illusion. And these few carry within themselves the seed of what will come next. The final question is simple and terrible. After understanding all this, after seeing the pattern repeating itself around you, will you choose to be another last man standing? Or will you have the courage to think beyond the herd? Because in the end, the only question that really matters is this: when your civilization is crumbling, what will you be capable of?